We're going to take a deep dive into The Interpretation of Dreams by Sigmund Freud.
Ah, Freud, such a game changer.
Totally. Even though it was published back in 1913, his ideas still really make you think. And for this deep dive, it can be dense material.
It can be, yeah.
But don't worry, we'll unpack those complex ideas and make sure you walk away with some awesome insights. So let's start with the basics. Like, how did people even think about dreams before Freud came along?
Well, it's interesting. For centuries, dreams were seen as, messages from the gods or glimpses into the future.
So, like, almost a spiritual thing, right?
Exactly. It was all about looking outside ourselves for answers.
But then Freud comes along and he's like, nope, let's look inside.
Right, he kind of turned the whole dream thing on its head.
He said dreams are connected to our own biology and psychology.
Exactly. And that was a huge shift, thinking of dreams as coming from within us rather than some outside force.
Totally a big deal. So what were some of the early theories about, like, the actual causes of dreams?
Well, some scientists thought that dreams were basically just, reactions to things happening around us while we sleep.
So if, like, a door slams, you might dream about an explosion or something?
Yeah, something like that. One scientist, Alfred Maury, he was really into this idea, did all sorts of experiments on himself.
Hold on, experiments on himself. Okay, I have to hear this.
Oh, yeah, some pretty wild ones. Like, he had someone tickle his lips with a feather while he slept, and guess what he dreamt about?
No idea what.
A torture mask being ripped off his face.
Whoa, that's intense. Any other interesting experiments?
Tons. He did one where someone sharpened scissors near his ear while he slept.
Oh my gosh, what did that one do?
That one triggered a dream about hearing alarms and being thrown back to a time of rebellion. It's incredible how the brain just, like, weaves these random sensory experiences into these elaborate dream narratives.
That is pretty wild, but it feels, I don't know, maybe a little too simplistic, like every little sound would turn into a whole dream, right? Didn't Freud think there was more to it than that?
Oh, he absolutely did.
He didn't think it was just external stuff making its way into our dreams.
No, not at all. He was convinced that, like, internal things, especially those desires we try to repress, the stuff we try to hide from ourselves, those are the real drivers of what we dream about.
So, like, things we're not even consciously aware of.
Precisely. He believed dreams were a window into our unconscious minds.
Ooh. Okay, so now we're getting into some Freudian territory. This is where his famous wish fulfillment theory comes in, right?
You got it.
It's like that saying, what does the goose dream of, Maze? Dreams are all about what we desire, even if we don't realize it.
Exactly. Freud basically said that dreams are disguised ways of fulfilling wishes that we've pushed down into our unconscious.
So it's not always a literal wish, right? Like, if I dream about winning the lottery, it doesn't mean I'm literally going to win.
Right. It's usually more symbolic than that.
So maybe it represents a desire for financial security or, I don't know, a feeling of being lucky or something.
Precisely. It's about those deeper desires that we might not even be consciously aware of.
This is getting interesting. But if our dreams are fulfilling these kind of hidden wishes, why are they so weird and jumbled? Why can't they just be straightforward?
That's where things get a little tricky. Freud believed that our minds have this sort of mental function he called the censor.
A sensor, like it's editing our dreams.
Well, not exactly editing. Let's give it more like a security guard for our minds. It's there to protect us from those unacceptable wishes bubbling up into our conscious awareness.
So those wishes that we repress, they're not allowed to just come out directly in our dreams.
Right, and that's where the dream work comes in.
Dream work?
Yeah, it's basically the process of disguising those wishes using symbols and, all sorts of strange scenarios to try and sneak them past the censor.
So our minds are basically playing this elaborate game of hide and seek with themselves.
In a way, yes. That's why our dreams can be so strange and nonsensical sometimes. They have to be disguised enough to slip past that inner censor.
This is so cool. Okay, I need an example. Can you give me an example of how this actually plays out in a dream?
Let me see. Okay, Freud analyzed this woman who had a dream about a child in a box.
Seems pretty simple, right?
Yeah, but when he interpreted it, it turned out to represent a hidden wish for her pregnancy to end.
Whoa, that took a dark turn.
Well, it shows how even seemingly innocent dream images can have, like, a much deeper hidden meaning.
So it's not just about what we see, but what it symbolizes, right?
Absolutely. And that's where understanding symbolism comes in. Freud believed that certain symbols, like stairs or boxes, often represent specific concepts.
So it's like we need a secret decoder ring to understand our dreams.
Kinda. And it gets even more complex because the meaning can also be unique to the individual dreamer.
Okay, so it's not just a one-size-fits-all dictionary of dream symbols.
No, not at all.
It's more nuanced than that. This is fascinating, but I have to admit, it's a lot to process. You mentioned this dream work, right? This process of transforming our thoughts into those strange dream images.
Right.
I need to know more about that. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So imagine you have this thought or wish, right? It's buried deep down in your unconscious.
Okay, got it.
And this wish, it wants to come out, but it can't just like appear directly in your
It
dreams.
needs a disguise.
Exactly. It needs a disguise, a costume almost.
So the dream work is like a costume designer for our unconscious desires.
Exactly. It transforms that raw wish into something more acceptable, something that can sneak past the censor and make its way into our dreams.
Okay, I'm with you. So how does it actually like disguise these wishes?
Well, one way is through this process, Freud, called displacement. Let's say you're super angry with your boss, but you obviously can't just like scream at them in real life.
Definitely not a good career move.
Right. So in your dream, that anger might be displaced onto something totally different.
Like what?
Like, I don't know, a traffic jam or a broken coffee machine,
So instead of yelling at my boss, I'm kicking the vending machine.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Your dream is giving you a coded message. You got to figure out the real meaning behind those symbols.
Right, so we're all dream detectives now.
Exactly.
But how do we know which symbols to focus on? There's got to be like a million of them.
Well, it's not always easy. But
Yeah.
there are some common anxieties and themes that show up a lot in people's dreams.
So some dreams are kind of like typical.
You could say that.
Mm-hmm.
Freud, he was really interested in dreams about the death of loved ones, especially parents and siblings.
Oh, wow. Okay. So not to freak anyone out, but does that mean we secretly want our family members to?
No, no, not at all. It's not about a literal desire for them to die.
Okay, good. Because that would be a little dark.
Yeah, a bit much. But it's definitely something that shows up in a lot of people's dreams, and it's worth exploring why.
So, like, why would someone dream about, let's say, a sibling dying?
Okay, so even if you and your siblings get along great, there's often a little bit of rivalry there,
Oh, yeah, totally.
Even if it's unconscious. Like, we all compete for attention or resources sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
it.
And those feelings can come out in our dreams.
So dreaming about a sibling dying, it's not really about wanting them gone, but more about those complex feelings of rivalry.
Exactly. It's a way of working through those emotions, but symbolically in the dream world.
Okay, that makes sense. What about parents? You mentioned dreams about parents dying too. Those feel even more intense, right? Especially when you factor in Freud's whole Oedipus complex thing.
Right.
Can you remind us what that even is? I feel like people throw that term around a lot.
So the Oedipus complex, it's basically this idea that children develop like unconscious sexual desires for the parent of the opposite sex.
Whoa, okay.
And at the same time, they have this rivalry with the parent of the same sex. It's complicated stuff, I know, but those emotions can definitely work their way into our dreams.
So if someone dreams about a parent dying, it's not because they actually want them to die. It's more like they're dealing with these deep-seated Oedipal conflicts.
Exactly. It's important to remember we're talking about unconscious desires and symbolic representations here, not literal intentions.
Right. Okay. So it's like our dreams are tapping into these childhood anxieties that still affect us as adults, even if we're not aware of it.
Precisely.
That is wild.
Ah.
This is all so fascinating, but it feels like to really understand our dreams, you'd need a degree in Freudian theory or something. Is there a way to like make sense of them on our own?
Well, while those dream dictionaries can be tempting, they don't always give you the full picture. Because the real meaning of a dream symbol, it's super personal. It depends on your own experiences and associations.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing?
Nope, not at all. The best way to understand your dreams is to tap into your own inner detective.
Ooh, I like that. So how do we become dream detectives? Where do we even start?
First, start keeping a dream journal. Like as soon as you wake up, write down everything you can remember, even if it's just a few random images.
Capture those details.
Exactly. Then, spend some time thinking about those details. What emotions did the dream bring up? What were the most vivid symbols? And see if you can connect any of it to your waking life.
So it's like we're piecing together a puzzle of our own minds.
Pretty much. You're looking for patterns, connections, and trying to figure out what your unconscious is trying to tell you.
But doesn't it get kind of subjective? Like, what if we're just reading into things?
That's a good point. You got to be self-aware when you're analyzing your dreams. Don't get too carried away with coming up with elaborate theories.
Right, because there's no one right answer.
Exactly. It's about the personal meaning the dream has for you.
So it's not about searching for a definitive answer, it's more about asking those deeper questions.
You got it. It's about using dreams as a starting point for self-reflection and exploring your inner world.
I love that. So it's not just about dreams themselves, it's about what they can teach us about ourselves.
Exactly. It's fascinating, isn't it? How our dreams offer this unique window into our unconscious. But it makes me wonder, if our unconscious is so active while we're dreaming, what about when we're awake?
Ooh, that's a great question. Our unconscious minds aren't just like taking a break when we're not dreaming, right?
You're right. Freud believed our unconscious is always at work, even when we're awake, influencing our thoughts and actions and everything.
Wow. But if we're not dreaming, how does that unconscious influence actually show up? What should we be looking for?
Well, have you ever had like a slip of the tongue?
Oh, you mean like those Freudian slips? Like when you accidentally call someone by the wrong name?
Exactly. Freud believed those slips were actually glimpses into our unconscious thoughts.
Yeah.
Like stuff we're not even aware of is bubbling up to the
Oh
surface.
my gosh, yeah. I once called my boss by my ex's name during a meeting. It was so embarrassing.
See? Classic Freudian slip.
Huh.
But there are other examples too.
Like what?
Well, think about jokes,
Right.
especially those with double meanings or like a really unexpected punchline.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Freud believed that humor could actually come from the release of repressed thoughts and desires. Like, it's a way to express those things in a safe, socially acceptable way.
So that nervous laughter we do when someone tells a slightly inappropriate joke, that could be our unconscious mind having a good time.
Precisely. And then, of course, there are those more serious expressions of our unconscious, like neurotic symptoms.
Oh, like anxiety and phobias.
Yeah, Freud saw all of that, the anxiety, the phobias, the obsessions, the compulsions, all of it as manifestations of, like, unresolved conflicts, often stemming from our childhoods.
Wow. So it's like there's this whole hidden world operating beneath the surface of our conscious minds.
There really is.
It's kind of intimidating, but also super fascinating. So should we be like analyzing our every thought and action now, looking for hidden meanings everywhere?
You don't have to become a full-blown psychoanalyst or anything, but I do think it's valuable to pay attention to those little hints from our unconscious.
Those moments where the curtain gets pulled back a little.
Exactly. It's not about obsessing over every little slip-up or overanalyzing every joke. It's more about being open to the idea that there might be more to our actions than we initially realize.
So a little bit of self-awareness goes a long way.
Exactly. It's all about understanding yourself better.
I love that. This has been such an eye-opening conversation. All this talk about dreams and the unconscious, it really has me thinking. If dreams can give us those like sneak peeks into our unconscious, what about all the other stuff we do during the day?
You mean like just our everyday actions?
Yeah, exactly. Could there be hidden meanings behind those too? Like, why do I always pick the same seat on the bus? Or like, why do I suddenly get the urge to rearrange my furniture?
Interesting. Well, you're kind of tapping into something that Freud was really interested in. The idea that our seemingly random actions, the stuff we do without even thinking, could actually be driven by our unconscious desires and motivations.
Whoa, so there's like a reason behind everything we do.
Well, maybe not everything, but he called these actions parapraxis, or what we often call Freudian slips.
Oh, so it's not just about those slip of the tongue moments.
Nope, it's broader than that. It includes things like forgetting things, misplacing stuff, even having accidents.
So like if I don't know, spill coffee on myself right before a big presentation.
It could be a Freudian slip. It might seem accidental,
Yeah.
but Freud believed there could be like a deeper reason behind it.
Oh, okay. So that time I completely blanked on my coworker's name during a meeting.
Could be your unconscious playing tricks.
Maybe my mind was trying to like erase that name for some reason.
Exactly. It's not about assigning a specific meaning to every little thing, but more about, being curious, being open to the possibility that there might be more to our actions than we realize.
So our unconscious is always trying to tell us something, even when we're not dreaming.
In a way, yeah. It's like those little hints and whispers from deep inside.
Okay, that is both amazing and kind of scary at the same time. But let's go back to dreams for a sec. What about people who, like, barely remember their dreams? Does that mean their unconscious is just quiet?
Not necessarily. Dreams are super fleeting, and it's totally normal to forget them.
Yeah, I know I do.
But good news, you can actually train yourself to remember them better.
Really? How?
Well, first, before you go to bed, set an intention. Tell yourself you want to remember your dreams,
Okay, intention set.
and keep a notebook and pen by your bed. So when you wake up, Write down anything you can remember, even if it's just like a feeling or a random
Yeah, you
image.
capture those dream fragments.
Exactly. The more you do this, the better you'll get at remembering those elusive dreams.
So it's like working a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Pretty much. But even if you remember your dreams, sometimes they're just so, I don't know, weird and jumbled. Where do you even begin to interpret that?
Right. Sometimes they just don't make sense.
We'll start with your feelings. How did the dream make you feel? Scared, happy, confused. Those emotions are a big clue to understanding what the dream might mean for you.
Oh, so my feelings are like a guide.
Exactly. Also, pay attention to recurring symbols or themes. Do certain images or scenarios pop up in your dreams a lot?
Like if I keep having dreams about being chased.
Right. That could be your unconscious trying to tell you something about, I don't know, maybe feeling overwhelmed or anxious in your waking life.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. So that recurring dream I have about my teeth falling out, maybe it's not just about going to the dentist.
Exactly. It could be a metaphor for something else. Don't be afraid to get creative with your interpretations.
All right, no more literal interpretations for me.
Good. And always remember, there's no one right answer when it comes to dreams. What matters most is what the dream means to you.
The personal meaning. Okay, I can get behind that. This deep dive has been incredible. We started with like ancient dream interpretations and then dove headfirst into Freud's theories.
Yeah, a lot of information.
We've learned about the secret language of dreams, how our unconscious minds are always at work, shaping everything we do, whether we're awake or asleep.
It's pretty amazing, right?
It really is. It makes you realize there's so much more to our minds than we even realize.
Absolutely.
So before we go, any final words of wisdom for our listeners as they set off on their own dream explorations?
Just be curious
Hmm.
and approach your inner world, your dreams, everything, with a sense of kindness and compassion. Don't be afraid to explore those hidden parts of yourself.
I love that. So everyone, pay attention to those dreams and don't underestimate the power of your own unconscious mind. Until next time, happy dreaming.